Happy Monday, Bills Mafia. We are starting your week off in a really fun way. We have a fan favorite in the house, former Buffalo Bills tight end Lee Smith, who is enjoying retirement. We're going to talk to him a little bit about that journey that's taken place since he retired after the 2021 season. He is Ryan Talbot. I am Matt Parrino. This is Shout, as always, brought to you by Tops Friendly Markets. And right now, you can win $1 million. Enter for your chance to win each week when Kings Hawaiian pits two city sliders against each other in the ultimate showdown, and you get to help decide the winner. Vote weekly for your favorite regional slider for a chance to win all season long and earn entries toward the $1 million prize. Explore the interactive stadium, play games, get recipes, share photos, and more. Visit topsmarkets.com/redzone to enter. Lee, I was going to say to start off with here, you're retired, kind of kicking your feet up, enjoying life, but it seems like you're as busy as you've ever been, my friend.
Yeah, and I think my wife considered divorcing me. I think she thought we were going to travel to the Caribbean and enjoy a year off after football. I just don't do well sitting still, man. Obviously, you get institutionalized playing in the NFL all those years. You get told where to be 10 times a day, and then you get to go, just party with your family for 4 months as you get cranked back up to do it again. So it was either all in, 10 meetings a day, ultimate structure, or just partying with my family. And just partying with my family for the next 20 years wasn't an option. I don't think that I could wake up without a carrot to chase or a goal to accomplish and really be the best version of myself. So I did this gym thing, man, pouring into the community back home where I grew up here in Knoxville and loving on these kids and just staying around athletics, which is awesome. Just athletics and Jesus, man. That's what we do here. We just party and getting all my boys here. Now that the season's over, had a couple guys come through. Got some combine and pro day guys in town getting ready for their NFL journey. So we're just rocking, man. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, so anyone that doesn't know, tell us a little bit more about Triple F Elite Training. Tell us a little bit about the Hot podcast, how you're keeping yourself so busy these days.
Yeah, man. So Triple F kind of got born in my brain over the last couple of years of my career. I knew that, I was staring down the barrel of a gun, so to speak. I wasn't going to play 5-10 more years, to say the least. My kids were getting old. Me and Alicia had 2 kids in college, and then I had my 3rd kid my rookie year in Buffalo. So I got teenage kids playing pro ball, and it just got to the point to where I just wasn't willing to do what it took to truly play another year. I love football. I love the game. I love my teammates. But to truly be the best version of Lee Smith and be the pro and the leader and the locker room guy and also the player that I was, I just wasn't willing to dedicate and be obsessed and revolve my whole life around being a pro football player anymore with the ages my kids were and kind of where I was at. So I knew it was coming to an end. I thought maybe that end would be after my 10th year up there. And then obviously me and Brandon and Arthur and everybody between the Bills and the Falcons made that trade happen. And it worked out great to play one more year, but I knew Triple F was next. This is my home. I grew up here, and we're not Atlanta here in Knoxville. We're not Miami. We're not Phoenix, Dallas. We're just a big small town. It's a lot like Buffalo, really, which is why I think we loved Buffalo so much, without all that white shit all the time. So it's very familiar to Buffalo guys. I mean, Knoxville, Tennessee, the University of Tennessee is 15 minutes from my house. The Big Orange here is very similar to the way Buffalo is loved there, or the Bills. And it's just very familiar to me, being in Buffalo and being here. So that's a lot what this town is. And there's just, I wanted to give these kids a true experience that felt like pro football. Because that's what I'm an expert in, guys. I'm not going to go to Bank of America and live the normal life. That's just not really in the cards for me. So I wanted to have a place that I could love on kids, stay around athletics, put together a staff that felt just like pro sports. These 12-year-old kids get what all those guys at the Buffalo Bills get every day. They just don't realize it or don't know it because they've never been in that atmosphere. But there's no better atmosphere in the world. It's no secret, guys, that my buddies, my father, my father's friends, like all these dudes, they don't transition out of pro football well because there's nothing else like it. You guys know there's nothing like being in those facilities. There's nothing like being around those guys and acting like a 16-year-old boy when you're 35 years old. There aren't many there aren't many women walking around the locker room. There aren't many women we brush shoulders with in general. So it's like it's just a bunch of goofy boys acting like they're kids for a living. And by the way, a pretty dang good living. So so to try to keep that familiarness to myself with being around athletics, and we got girl and boy members here. Obviously, the boys dominate the numbers, but my girls here are probably my favorite. They outwork the boys most of the time. The girls that are here, they got to be dogs to survive in this environment here at Triple F. So they're a lot of fun to watch get better. But that's what it is, man. It's a gym to give these kids truly a pro football experience, pro basketball, pro baseball, just be in the most elite environment and come enjoy each other and grow as athletes around people that know what the heck they're doing and just pour back into this community where I grew up. And, Jesus will always be at the forefront of that. I tell folks all the time, it's not mandatory to be a Christian and be a member here. We don't say the Lord's Prayer before every workout session, but Jesus is always present around here. We got our Bible study coming up here in a couple hours that we do for the kids. So that's been a lot of fun, but I'm still raw and rugged, and let a 4-letter word slip out of my mouth every once in a while. I got screws all kinds of loose. So it's been fun.
I want to say that if you could check this out, go over to knoxvillesportstraining.com. You can kind of get a look inside the Triple F facility, and it looks state of the art. I mean, it looks like you guys really did this thing the right thing. How important was that to you as you were kind of building this thing to make sure, you want to give them that environment, but to also give them this really, truly this elite training experience?
Well, it says train like a pro on the wall downstairs, and you guys have been around me a long time. Sometimes my biggest flaw is that, I don't have the ability to be full of shit. So that's something I need to get better at, I guess, now that I'm in the real world. But you know what, man, when I put train like a pro on the wall, I meant it. I want these kids, Matt, man, I want these kids to truly be able to feel the energy and environment that I got to live for 11 years. Mm-hmm. Dude, kids don't go to the NFL. That's not real. That's not a reality. That's not going to happen for 99% of the kids that ever come through this place. But they're going to get to experience as close as it gets to that being here. And the facility is a big part of that. Like they built a brand. When I got to Oakland in free agency, when I left Buffalo the first time, it felt like I was in Afghanistan. And I'm just like, holy smokes, this place is a dump. And then they built a state-of-the-art training facility literally right when I got there. So I got to watch that be built. My man Joe Gomes, who's still a dear friend of mine, I got to watch that get built. And then obviously while I was gone in those 4 years, Buffalo just completely renovated their place. And so I got to be in two of the nicest – listen, man, you go over to the University of Tennessee or Alabama or Georgia, these dudes got to build these crazy lavish training rooms and weight rooms and locker rooms for what? Recruiting, right? Mm-hmm. You recruit guys in the NFL with big checks. You don't recruit them with fancy hot tubs and cold tubs and nice locker rooms. So, my deal was already done in Oakland before I ever got out there. The weight room wasn't really a concern. It was taking care of my family, right? Mm-hmm. So there's just not that many NFL teams that really pour into the facilities like Oakland did while I was there and like the Buffalo Bills have, obviously. So I wanted it to feel just like that. For 10 years of my career, I got to be in a place that truly had great facilities, and you can't say train like a pro downstairs if I don't have a facility like I'm used to in the NFL. So I wanted it all to be so familiar, man. That's a big part of why I built it the way I built it. And my NFL buddies come in town and they're like, bro, these kids have no idea how close this truly is to what we do every day. And I'm like, I know, but and they never will, which is fine because I want them to go off and be the best dentist in town or the best lawyer in town or the best whatever. I just want them to – I want this to put a jetpack up their butt to go be the best at whatever they decide to do in life. So like I said, man, it's been so much fun. And then Hut was just kind of a byproduct to stay around the guys. And Bruce Irvin, my dog, is going to be a big-time part of it once he's done playing. It was kind of mine and Bruce's plan to do it together. And he obviously went back to Seattle and played well. He's an old man now, but he's got some juice left. So once he's done, it'll kind of be us together, which will be cool, and just try to stay connected to our NFL buddies. And once again, I just don't want to let my family down, man. I don't want to let my kids down. I don't want to let my wife down. I had a father that transitioned out of pro football very poorly, and as much as I can stay familiar to what I know, dude, I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
Great.
that's awesome. And listening to your show, it doesn't seem like you really miss those 20 play drives coming on and off the field. And you already noted what one thing that you do miss is being around the guys acting like a bunch of 16-year-olds. But what's one thing that you missed that you didn't think you were going to miss?
Oh, the easy answer is nothing. And I'm so thankful. Listen, guys, like even I call him Pops, even Cole Beasley. Like we talked a lot last year, man, and it's like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It does. Don't get me wrong. Like having financial security for a male is a gigantic asset. But when guys struggle the most is when they don't get to leave on their terms. And as you guys know, that's 99.9% of dudes in the NFL.
Right.
So if I would have had an injury after year 8 or 9, and I would have felt like, man, I'm just not quite done yet, I think it would have been a much harder transition out. I know it would have been. But I was running around down there in Atlanta, and obviously I went down there to help Arthur get that thing built and had a blast doing it. But, just as the season went on, man, I didn't have much juice left. I had juice in the locker room, and juice as a leader, and juice to help Kyle Pitts understand what pro football is supposed to look like. But I just didn't have much left in the tank, and I just knew it was time. God was telling me it was time. My family was telling me it was time. I wasn't in love with Sundays anymore, and that scared me. So to answer your question, the boys, and then I will say this one thing that I noticed yesterday for the first time. I had a big party over here at Triple F for all these kids just to let them come watch the Super Bowl. And the moment of standing there on the sideline during the national anthem, and this, I'm not going down the political rabbit hole. That's not what I'm just talking in general. The Pavlov's dog's reaction of when that started to play, you knew it's party time. And just that feeling in your body of, do I want to puke? Do I want to cry? Do I want to headbutt somebody? Do I want to sniff ammonia? Like, holy smokes, just get me to that first place so I can get these butterflies out of my stomach. I miss that feeling. And I hadn't really thought about it because I don't watch much football, but we were here last night. And, if you don't get chills with Chris Stapleton singing the national anthem, you're not human. So, but just that sideline feeling of, man, I get to the prayer. I would say every national anthem, I would say a prayer, and like that feeling of, I get to do this to provide for my family, and I like I said, this feeling, I'll never have that feeling again. It's just that feeling of combat, so to speak. I don't like the football to military comparison. I've never had to bury any of my buddies, but that pre-combat feeling, the national anthem, just that 5 to 10 minutes before the game, man. I realized the other day for the first time, like because I was getting chills, and I kind of sort of had the feeling, and I'm like, I ain't playing shit. But for some for some reason, I felt it a little bit, and I'm like, man, that was kind of cool. Like that's something that you don't get in the real world. Just that pre-game emotion. I miss that. I missed it for sure.
That's awesome. And you don't think about that, like. When I used, before I started covering the Bills, I lived in Vegas for 5 years and covered, the UFC. I worked for the UFC. And so transition to football is still, guys hitting each other but it's a different vibe. Like, on fight night, like a big fight night, something that me and John have connected on over the years. It's just different. It's hard to explain what it's like to be in the arena for a big time fight, a big time main event. And I wasn't in it. I wasn't fighting, but missing being around that. Like you feel it down deep and in those moments, but all the other moments, I grew up in Buffalo around this team, around this community. And so being able to come back here, bring my family back here, this has been something for me personally that has outweighed a lot of that stuff, but it doesn't, stop those brief moments on those big fight nights, those big moments where you feel it.
Absolutely. Vince St. Preux is down here in Knoxville. He comes by the gym. He's just such a great guy. I'm fat and out of shape right now because I've enjoyed this year away from football, but I'm about to get my butt back in the gym and get healthy again. But I asked him, I said, do you need just a big body just to help you? Because he's at the end of his career here now. He's 39 years old. He's got a fight next week, I think. But so I got the utmost respect for those guys. But he's not going back out there at 39 years old to fight because he just loves fighting. It's all those things. And he loves fighting, obviously, but it's all those things, that energy, that emotion, the way you feel. Like, I do not miss playing football. I played until I had nothing left in the tank. But some of those little things, I'm sure over the years, to answer your question, Ryan, there's going to be something else next year of like, man, I miss that too. Like there's going to be all the little things. 11 years of my life. I was born my father's rookie year in the NFL. I got 2 boys now. We'll see what their long-term trajectory looks like. Genetics are pretty good, big, ugly, and slow, but at least big. So, but like there's always, I think, Ryan, going to be those things when I'm 45 years old that I'm like, man, those are the good old days, so to speak. Not that I sit around bonfires and talk about it all the time, but literally, it's funny you asked me that because last night was the first time during the national anthem that I kind of sort of got butterflies and just had that deja vu of those moments. And it's like, man, that was a pretty fun, 11 years, 100 and how many ever games, pretty good stuff.
We've talked a lot on this show over the last 2 months now, about what the Bills have gone through this season. And really, in a lot of ways, you could really probably take this back to 2021 with all the COVID stuff and just being a football player in general going through that season, like how much it affected, players, families, and then into 2022, everything around the top shooting locally, Kim Pagula, which we've just really learned the details of that. Dawson Knox, obviously you're very close with him losing his brother right before the season, all of these things. And then DeMar Hamlin, obviously in season, you have this unique perspective from being so close to it for so long, then watching a lot of it this year far away. Like, what is your takeaway from this 2022 season now, knowing how it ended and everything that this team went through?
What does everybody say? Like, you talk to current players, you talk to former players. Like, what do you think you're going to miss? What do you miss? What is always the universal first answer? The guys. Mm-hmm. Like, the brotherhood of pro sports, there's nothing comparable to it on planet Earth outside of maybe the military. Not maybe the military, definitely the military. Mm-hmm. So when your brothers are hurting, when the community is hurting around you, and not to mention, let's not ever ignore the fact that it's miserable to live in Buffalo. Yeah. Like, and I don't mean that negatively. I love Buffalo, but right. But like, you don't see the sun. It's cold as hell. I mean, I'm a redneck from Tennessee. I honestly bought a scarf, bro. I mean, it's unbelievable. so it's like it's great to live there because the people are great, but let's not ignore the fact that it's miserable 4 months a year. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, you don't see the sun. So Sean has done a great job inside the facility. It's like a Vegas casino in there. He's got all the LED lights, and you don't realize you're even in Buffalo once you walk in the building until it's time to go home. Sean's done a great job with that, of just keeping the energy inside that building, top shelf since he got there. That was one of his big things that I was a big fan of when I got back. It's just more energy, light. It just, he gets that side of it. But with Miss Pagula, because from what I understand, I wasn't there, but nobody really knew. I mean, Alicia's friends with the youngins, and she was communicating with them and talking about the Pagula kids. And and obviously, we knew it wasn't good. And the shooting, and especially when race is involved, it's just so emotional. And listen, we're all still feeling COVID. Like, this was supposed to be finally that crap is over. Let's move on. And then you just continue to get punched in the face. Mm-hmm. And I don't care what anybody says, man. And Sean and Brennan and Josh especially. If Josh Allen heard me say this, he would be mad at me. Mm-hmm. But when I watched that game, bro, they were just tired, just mentally and physically exhausted. And I mean, imagine being Dawson Knox, bro. I mean, obviously that's like my little brother. His parents are like family to me. I'm right in the middle of his parents and his age, so I'm trying to figure out which one I have a better relationship with here, David or Dawson. But like, burying your child, burying your brother, and it's just like, come on, man. And when your brothers are hurting, and then DeMar, it was just the weather. There's snow. There's a blizzard. Let's move the game. Like, it's just unbelievable. And like I said, they'd all be mad at me because they're such competitors and they don't want any excuses. And if I was still a player in that locker room, I wouldn't want to listen to anybody else say what I'm saying right now either, because we're grown men, and regardless of what happens in life, we're going to buckle up and go. But I'm telling you, boys, like, what a year. There's just no way to truly even try to put yourself in that brain space unless you're – and then don't forget, Von Miller is the dude in that locker room. Josh is still young. Josh is still young. He doesn't have a Peyton Manning and Tom Brady mentality. He's not going to walk upstairs and raise hell. He's just going to be Josh and do his thing and play quarterback. Mm-hmm. So he's not going to be that guy. Vaughn was the guy. Vaughn was the dude in the locker room. I was that dude when I was there. And him getting hurt, I mean, the list just goes on and on. We sit here and talk long enough. There's going to be 3 more things that we remember that were just like sucker punches to the gut. So I think it was an exhausting year for the guys, man. I really do, and rightfully so. And I think that that if the good Lord will hold off on the snow and keep people healthy, and my God, not let anybody lose their life, for crying out loud. Hell with football and winning and losing. We got people losing their life, and and if that stuff will just take a pause, for crying out loud, give Buffalo a little break. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to be so stinking rejuvenated and fired up next year, they're going to beat people's teeth in. That's my honest opinion. I think that they're going to come out with a jetpack up their ass. Lord willing, no more tragedy strikes. Yeah. And just be rejuvenated and as healed as possible. Dawson Knox will never be fully healed from losing his brother. That's not how it goes. Like, that scar will be there for life. Obviously, DeMar back healthy, and no more blizzards that are, also taking people's lives, by the way. That's like, right. Man, down in the South, people are like, man, that's so cool. I'm like, bullshit, it ain't cool. Like 2 feet of snow is cool. You go sledding, you hang out with your kids at Chestnut Ridge, and you party. 6 feet of snow is not cool. That is not cool at all.
Right. Can't get out of your house. Can't get groceries.
It's scary. And of course, it strikes poverty first, right? Like I can't imagine it being in a trailer park with that blizzard comes. It's one thing if you live over in Birdsong with Brandon Bean. Hey, shout out to Brandon. Sorry, I probably shouldn't say where Brandon lives. So a lot of people go into his house and shoot. Sorry, Brandon. But it's one thing. Like, it's one thing when you have a big, nice, warm home, but people don't realize how that snow affects people in the city, people in trailer parks, people that don't have resources. Like, it's tragic, man, and it's just horrible. So hopefully all that stuff will cease and give Buffalo a little break, give the community a little break, and then just everybody surround that positive, healed energy around the Bills and next season, and just watch them beat the brakes off people. I can't wait.
There you go. Ken Dorsey, offensive coordinator, first year, was under siege a lot from the fan base. What did you think of him this year in terms of what he did in his first year? And was anyone going to be able to come in and kind of replace Brian Daboll in terms of what he has been able to do? Or do you think just anyone that came in, whether it was someone from that was coaching with Daboll or even a new coach with the new system, was going to face challenges?
Yeah, I think inevitably sometimes, let's just call a spade a spade. It's hard to truly get better when you have a season that good, right? But listen, any player in that locker room is going to stand up for Dorsey. I will be the first one to stand up for Dorsey. That's my guy. I mean, he's a leader of men. He's a great man, but I always say, it's not a popularity contest in pro football. It's production-based business. But maybe I missed out on the fact that, they won a crap ton of games and were in the number 1 seed the majority of the year. I remember in 2011 when I came back, or when I got claimed off waivers by the Bills when I got released in New England, and I think we were hot, man. We won like 6 in a row, or we were 6-2. I don't remember what it was, but we were hot early in the year. Then we went and lost like 9 games in a row, and every year thereafter, like, just a winning season would have been, that people would have remember how everybody felt that first year they went to the playoffs. Y'all remember that feeling in Buffalo where both y'all there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now we're bitching about 13-win seasons. So it's like, give me a break. I'm anti-fan sometimes. I watched Josh Allen get booed off the field when I first came back. So it's like, give me a break. Stay on your couch and worry about how you make a living, not about Ken Dorsey. He's a really good coach. He's a really good man. Your avatar quarterback like once again, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for Josh because he'd be mad at me. But torn elbows are not a good thing for a starting quarterback, just for the record. So, like, you see all these clowns on ESPN, Josh's demise and all this stuff. And it's like, well, number one, you've never put on shoulder pads. And, the clown show will continue. It is what it is. Everybody's got their opinion. But Ken Dorsey, Josh Allen, the combination of those two dudes, man, like, just take a deep breath, relax. Obviously, Daboll was really, really good. He was the best. Dorsey will fix all. I mean, because listen, it's his first year being a coordinator, man. Go back to Brian Daboll's first year being a coordinator, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure if it was great or bad or anywhere in between. I wasn't with Daboll his first year as a coordinator, but give the guy a break. He will fix all those things. Like, nobody wants to fix those little inefficiencies more than Ken Dorsey does. Let him attack this offseason. Like I said, let Buffalo heal, keep the snow away, keep people alive, and watch what Dorsey and Josh do next year together. It's going to be scary, guys. I'm just telling y'all. I'm telling y'all right now, the Buffalo Bills are going to be terrifying next year with the rejuvenation and the healing that hopefully takes place this offseason just from this crazy, tragic, 8 months.
Yeah, absolutely. One area, though, where it feels like the Bills might have to improve a little bit might be along the offensive line. You saw in the Super Bowl last night, 2 really good offensive lines with the Eagles and with the Chiefs. Is this something where maybe the Bills were just missing something this year? Was it, again, a new offensive line coach, some new players inserted in? Or is it something where maybe the Bills do need to make their number one priority protecting Josh? Because like you said, these elbow injuries, that's not good for a starting quarterback. Should their number one priority this offseason be to protect Josh Allen?
Well, as you all both know by covering me and being around me over the years, the any negative comment about a player in the National Football League is not going to come out of my voice. But in saying that, they 100%, and Brandon, I'm sure, would be the first one. I mean, you don't give somebody $43 million a year and then not prioritize protecting them. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. So they had, 3 Pro Bowlers this year, I'm pretty certain. I'm pretty sure Mitch and the whole left side went to the Pro Bowl. Roger and Dion, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep,
right.
You're right.
The young right tackle I'm high on. I think he's got a bright future. He's obviously an avatar of a human being. He's big and gifted. I know he's battled with some injuries. So man, I'm high on their O-line. I think it's a combination of both. I think Josh Allen will be the first one to admit that his Superman mentality sometimes can put him in harm's way. But that's also what makes Josh Allen and Ryan Fitzpatrick and these guys elite leaders. Like, they're leaders of men. Their teammates want to follow them. Josh is going to try to win the game on every play. I don't remember what game it was. I was up there for the Minnesota game. It's like going into half. Mm-hmm. And literally the time is expiring. And I'm sitting there like, oh, here he goes. And he throws a touchdown pass with no time on the clock. Was it Minnesota?
Was that the Gabe Davis touchdown?
I want to say it might have been the one to James Cook in the end zone where he scrambled around for a while and was – yeah.
So that costs your team 3 points right there.
Right.
If he doesn't complete that pass. But that's who he is. So, of course, and from a coaching standpoint and from Lee Smith, the retired guy that's up in Josh's suite with his family, like, of course you're going, no, throw it away. At least get 3 points. That's not what makes him great. So what makes him great is that he wants to win the game on every single play. And he will continue to grow. Brandon's always going to prioritize protecting him. I have zero doubt in my mind about that. For God's sakes, he already has 3 Pro Bowlers and a lot. He's got a lot of money on that O-line. So how Brandon decides to maybe go a little younger, I don't know. What he decides to do up front is up to him. But I think you'd be foolish to say that protecting the $43 million man, who I think is the best leader of men. It's hard to not crown Patrick Mahomes right now. That dude is ridiculous. But Josh Allen is, if I'm starting a team tomorrow, that's my dog. He's my first pick, period. So, but he'll get right. Brandon will do whatever it takes to protect him. I have no doubt in my mind. Dorsey will do whatever it takes in the scheme to protect him. And they just got to keep learning, man. Like Josh is still young. Look out for that dude because every year he gets a little better at something, and he just takes the league by storm every year. But I think it's a combination of everybody. Josh tried not to play middle linebacker with the ball in his hand, and obviously doing a few things roster wise. That's totally up to Brandon and Sean. But I have no doubt in my mind that they'll do what's best for Josh.
Got 3 questions left for you. 2 Bills related, and then 1 triple F. Josh and Stephon Diggs. You had a front row seat to those 2 guys developing their chemistry, their relationship, the way that they, paint on the field, right? On this blank canvas. To your point, Josh is this ultra competitor, ultra creator, and Diggs has just been the perfect piece to that. The lasting image that, fans and media are taking into the offseason is a very frustrated Stephon Diggs with his arms raised, looking at Josh on the sideline. Is that a impenetrable relationship, or is that like anything else? Like, when things don't go wrong, it gets tested. I mean, how close are those 2?
Well, I'll tell you this, and at the end of the day, when you're in the real world, the only people that get to see the worst version of you normally is your family, your wife and kids, right? Like, you can't hide from them. That's where you go home every day. That's when you have your little mental breakdowns or your little temper tantrums. Like, your family sees it. And then you go out in the real world and you put on this mask and you act like you got no issues, right? You don't have that luxury as a professional athlete when you're in the most emotional, intense environment on the planet, doing what you love the most outside of your family. So I would say that it's a non-issue, 100% non-issue. Those dudes are like brothers. If you could – so I got a business partner here at Triple F. His name's Daniel Evans. Not that anyone in Buffalo knows who Daniel Evans is, but he's one of my best friends. The way we cuss each other and attack each other at times is borderline just abuse. All right? Because that's the only way I know how to communicate, man. Like, it's pro football. Like, hey, bro, block your guy. And then when I don't block my guy, it's like, hey, Lee, block your guy. Like it's like Steph wants the ball. Like, hey, Josh, I want the ball, bro. Give me the ball. Like, that's what got us here. Like, throw me the ball. And you think Josh is mad about that? No, Josh is just as frustrated as Steph is in that moment that, he can't get Steph the ball because of whatever the defense was doing or whatever the game was going on. So, no, to all Buffalo fans out there, 100%. And by the way, my anti-fan comments earlier, I love you, Buffalo fans. But get off my man Dorse. All you living room coaches, get off my man Dorse. You were on Josh when I came back in 2019? Yeah, you were booing Josh off the field then too. Now y'all kill your firstborn children for him. So get off Dorsey. But
I'll stand up with you on that point, because the same people, I would argue, that are coming for Dorsey are the same people that wanted Brian Daboll fired 2 years ago, or like the end of 2019. I remember there was actually a Twitter movement, like a hashtag movement for it. And some of those same folks by the end were like, Brian Daboll, offensive coordinator of the year.
Yeah. And listen, let's be clear. That's what makes pro football freaking awesome. Like, people are obsessed with this, guys. Like, my family has a great life, financially speaking. And my kids are healthy. God is good. My wife still loves me, I think. Like, my life is awesome outside of pro football, giving us great experiences and financial resources. But, like, pro football took care of my family because people love it. So, like, when they're not happy, like, they spend their hard-earned money, like, especially Buffalo fans. What else do they have to do on a December Sunday? Like, so, like, when they're not happy, when it's not the product they want, it's not the product they're spending their hard-earned money to enjoy, they got every right. That's what makes it great. But at the same time, like, as a player and as a coach, like I said, I don't read Twitter. I don't read Instagram. Like, there might be people out there that hate me. There might be people out there that love me. I don't spend my time on social media. But I can hear boos in the stands. I hear the noise. My wife tells me things. Yeah, a big-time movement, fire Brian Daboll. At the NFL Honors, what was it, last week, he's the freaking NFL Coach of the Year, boys. Like, and Buffalo Bills fans. And by the way, how about this? He's a Buffalo native. Like,
Yeah.
and they still want to cut his throat and run him out of town. So it's like, give me a break. It's so annoying, but thank God for the fans that they support us. They show up every Sunday, whether they're mad or happy or drunk or jumping on tables or whatever they got going on. Like, Bills fans are the best, but those 10% of Bills fans that want to find something to complain about, it's like, come on, man, you got a Super Bowl contending team, an all-pro quarterback, an all-pro receiver, just a great leadership in Brandon and Sean all the way down. Like, it's a heck of a time to be a Bills fan. Sit back, enjoy the ride, because I promise you, as Bills fans should know, you don't know what's going to happen once the Josh Allen, Sean McDermott show ends. You might be on a 20-year drought. So how about you enjoy the moment instead of complaining, and enjoy the wins, enjoy the Super Bowl runs, and just try to be positive. So there's my soapbox for the day.
This is a great transition though, because our next topic was going to be Brian Daboll, and you just mentioned him quite a bit. Obviously, a great first season in New York, gets them back to the playoffs. You've been around him before. Tell us a little bit about him from your perspective, being with him, knowing what you know about him, but also what makes him different from a leadership perspective than what they have in Sean McDermott.
Well, listen, Dave's just a grimy dude from South Buffalo, I think. I'm pretty sure he's from the South Side. Like, Brian, him and Sean are much different leadership types, right? Like, Von Miller leads that locker room different than Lee Smith led the locker room, or Micah Hyde leads different than Jordan Poyer. So to Josh Allen leads different than Ryan Fitzpatrick did. Like, all of us have different leadership qualities. I would say that Sean and Dave's are very different personality types. And Dave's is probably more like me. He's emotional. He's going to do and say things that he might look back on 5 minutes later and think, man, that might have overreacted a little bit. But it's all just pure passion and love and just hatred for losing. Like, that dude hates losing. He hates having, a negative play that he called. Like, he's just so passionate about the work that he puts into it. So I don't know, man. Like, one thing's for sure. I knew that when he went up there, they were going to be successful because he's a dang good football coach. It's the same reason I went to play for Arthur Smith for one more year instead of retiring. Like, we were in salary cap hell in Atlanta. And Arthur just he gets the team, because you get these coaches, they try to fit square pegs in round holes. Like, you have to design offensive scheme based off of the players you have, especially in year one. You can't go in there with your offensive scheme and we're going to do this no matter what. Well, it's like, well, hey, man, we don't have the right guard for that play. Or, hey, man, we don't have the tight end that can block anybody for that play. Or, hey, man, Lee Smith is slow as molasses. We cannot run that play. Like there's just a million things that if you just try to jam square pegs and round holes all the time, especially in year 1 and 2 of a new team when you're trying to build it your way, you're going to lose and you're going to get fired. So I knew Daboll would not do that. I knew he was going to make the best out of the players he had and change the energy and kind of culture around that place. And he just understands. The best way I'll put it, when coaches used to come in the locker room, I would literally yell and scream and cuss them until they were just so ashamed that they would leave. Like, this is and in a loving way. Like, these coaches are my guys. I've like I said, I had teenage kids playing in pro football, so I had a lot more in common with the coaches at the end of my career than the players. The players were always my dudes, but I got and I would bury all the coaches for my teammates, and they knew that. But some of these coaches are dear friends of mine. But I would get out of here, man. Like, the whole, I can't say what I would say to him, but Brian Daboll, man, come in the locker room, he kind of had his pack. He was just that guy. You know what I'm saying? So there was just something special about him. He just understood how to relate to guys. He has a ton of experience, and I think Dave would tell you personally, like, probably wasn't a head coach sooner because he's a little bit of a hothead and, emotional, and he's just that grimy dude from South Buffalo, like I said. But finally he got his shot, man. I'm so happy for him and Beth and the kids, and to get the recognition he got the other day at the NFL Honors. You could tell he was about to cry. That's why his speech was so short, because that dude standing on that stage enjoyed every second of it, man. Like, he's just a special human being. And then Sean, it speaks for itself. He's like I told you to tell Sean all the time, that fancy new pay raise you got, you earned it, man. Like, he came back and built that thing back the right way. And the one thing I'll always give Sean credit for and no one's perfect. Dorsey's not perfect. Sean's not perfect. Leslie's not perfect. Brandon's. I mean, no one's perfect, guys. Come on, give me a break. Like, players aren't perfect. But Sean McDermott said, me and Josh Allen are either going to the promised land together or we're going down together. And that was the best decision he ever made. You see all these head coaches, they screw up these rookie quarterbacks. They have all these competition, quarterback battles. And, like, Josh was a raw kid from Wyoming. He didn't need that stress in his life. Like, just hand him the torch and let him grow. And that's exactly what Sean did. And now the Buffalo Bills are perennial Super Bowl contenders because of it, because Sean and Josh went on this ride together and Brandon built a hell of a team around them. So it's good stuff, man.
Well, you've given us good stuff. And speaking of good stuff, maybe you should have rethought this Triple F thing and gone into like college recruiting, because you're out on the recruiting trail right now. I heard you trying to pitch Beasley on Tennessee. Apparently, John Feliciano is retiring there to join you at Triple F. What's that about?
So me and Rodney Hudson, who's a dear friend of mine, just finished his 12th year for the Cardinals. He's the godfather of my oldest son. Me and him kind of raised Felice as a football player in Oakland. And then Felice left in free agency. Gruden cut me, and I ended up in Buffalo back with Felice. So I was with him for the first 6 years of his career. And, John Feliciano is just so dear to me as a friend and a teammate. But he's a lot like me, man. Like, he needs to be surrounded with the right people and the right energy. And both of us grew up in toxic environments. So the fact that we can have each other and kind of grow old together here in Tennessee, raising our families and loving on these kids down here, I'm just fired up because that's my guy. Now, he's also the first person you call if you're going to a bar fight. You know what I mean? So me and him got a lot in common. We're dear friends, and I'm super excited about him being here. I've got his farm all ready for him. He's going to, get welcome to redneck living in a hurry with cows and partying down here. But most importantly, he's a dang good man that I need to unplug that door chime next time I do one of these things. I'm going to go ahead and But no, man, that's my dog. And see, that thing won't stop now. I'm going to go with a hammer here in a minute, boys. But no, Bees, I don't think I'm going to get him. He's a Texan at heart. I don't know that I'll get him, but obviously Dawson's right up the road in Nashville, and got a couple buddies from my Falcons journey that are right down in Atlanta, which is all close to me, and try to get up to Buffalo as much as I can while these guys that I love so much are still in that locker room. Once they're all gone, I might come back for a mulberry dinner once a year, but I'll be back a lot while my dudes are still playing for the Bills. It's fun. But once again, the brotherhood, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like my dog moving down here and going on this journey with me and pouring into this community. I'm excited. John is he's the class act of dirtbags. Him and Daboll both. They're two peas in a pod. There's a reason they're up there together.
Go to youtube.com/@HutHut Podcast, HUT podcast. You will find Lee Smith's show as he grows this thing. I've listened to a couple episodes already. You're going to want to check it out, Bills fans. Interviews with Cole and John Feliciano and more to come. I'd imagine eventually you're going to get Mr. Josh Allen on one of these, right?
Yeah, you got to let him simmer off in the off season. And he gets picked and prodded at by everybody. So he's always the one my thing is I don't want to be what was it called a few years ago? Advocare, that pyramid scheme, the little nutrition Advocare, I guess it was. Like, I don't want to be this guy that every time somebody sees my number on their phone, they're like, oh shit, Lee wants something again. Lee wants a podcast, or Lee wants me to come to Triple F and shake hands and kiss babies. Like, I'm never going to be that guy. Like, I'm just not going to do it. So, which is probably why, my business partner gets on me all the time. Like, bro, you have all these resources, just use them. I'm like, man, it's just hard for me to call my dogs all the time and ask them for favors. But in saying that, I'm getting his ass on sooner or later. So me and Josh will have a good one. I might have to get him down here to Knoxville and love on him and take him to dinner and give him a little redneck living too. He's a California kid, but he grew up on a farm, so he's got a little bit of redneck in him, but or a big old ranch. So yes, stay tuned. Josh Allen will be on there sooner or later, along with a lot of other guys around the league that I've played with throughout my career. And like I said, OSP, get him on there at some point. I got a couple fighters here in town. So at the gym, we train all sports, all kids. So I'm trying to get as many guys on there as I can. These kids can look up to that have made it in all sports. So it'll be cool.
Well, we miss you in the locker room, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully we can catch up with you maybe later on this year. Good luck with everything. You're killing it.
My brother, anything you ever need from me, I'm all in. Bills Mafia, all the players, my guys, love y'all, man. I miss y'all. Best time of my career being up there. It was so much fun. You embraced my family. You treated me like gold. Even all you haters out there who, got tired of my offsides penalties. I love you too. So I miss it, man. I miss you guys. I miss being there. Miss the energy. But I'm sure you're glad it's over. So I enjoyed it. And call me if you ever need me, Matt. Ryan, good to see y'all boys.
Good
Take care, Lee.
All right, man.
All right, Lee Smith delivering great appearance from him. I knew it would be. That's why I invited him onto the show. Before we get out of here, Ryan, I want to talk about Ken Dorsey specifically because Lee brought him up and defended him quite a bit. I've been in the mentions today, actually, waging the war that I didn't know that I was even a part of. I've been pretty critical of Ken Dorsey at times. Like, you have to be, right? Like, I think you could be critical without like these grand overarching like requests for like, firing a guy. It's what I kind of, picked and prodded at guys or at fans years ago with the Daboll stuff. Like, the Dorsey stuff is like, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, right? And the Kansas City Chiefs, look at their situations. They landed on a Jalen Hurts, which was just like, a penny in a wishing fountain. You draft him in the 3rd round, you develop him. You put him behind this elite of all elite offensive lines. It all comes together, perfectly, and you're 3 points away from the Super Bowl. But guess what, Ryan? As good as that Philadelphia Eagles season was this year, they are in the same boat as 29 other teams, the Bills included. They lost. They didn't win the Super Bowl. So their season is as successful as the Bills, even though the Bills lost 2 rounds earlier. And then you look at the Chiefs. They are a unicorn in this sport. They have a guy in Andy Reid who has been a longtime offensive guru that has taken years and decades to craft this offensive package. And oh, by the way, you have that guy in the biggest important position managerially in your organization. And then you have arguably the best quarterback to ever play the game in there, at the same time, making music together. It's just, most teams have to do it a different way. They have to orchestrate this. And you kind of look back, and honestly, I look at that 2021 season as more of a miss than this past season because you had Daboll in that last window before he was going to get a head coaching job. I think I'd be more mad at that. I think there's plenty to build on with what they did in year 1 with Dorsey and what this could look like in year 2 with him.
Yeah, and going back to what you just said, I agree. Last year was their best opportunity to date. They were rolling on offense going into that Chiefs game. They had come back. Everything was kind of clicking there. This past year, all we heard all season, man, in the comments was no first-year offensive coordinator has ever won a Super Bowl or led his team to Super Bowl. And, okay, yeah, that happened this year with the Bills. The stat continues. But he's going to get better. He's going to get better with experience. If you look at Brian Daboll's coaching history before he came to Buffalo, there was a lot of stops, a lot of offensive coordinator jobs, a lot of different positional jobs. He had quite the journey to get to where he is now, winning coach of the year. It's not just smooth sailing from year 1. So like Lee Smith said, he's going to get better. He's going to learn from his mistakes. There's going to be more rhyme and rhythm to the play calls that he makes. I'm sure that there were times where he said, well, I have confidence in this play, and maybe it didn't fit in terms of what the Bills are trying to do. It didn't fit in terms of the setting up the next play, but he's going to learn from these experiences. And, pre-show, Matt, you mentioned, and you already said some of the things about the Chiefs. Their offensive line coach has been there since 2013. Eric Bieniemy is this coach that hasn't been poached all these years when there's been all this offensive magic. And yes, I know Andy Reid supposedly calls the plays, but Bieniemy is finally getting those looks. He might end up with the Commanders as offensive coordinator or another opportunity elsewhere. They've had a lot of things to stay in place for them. Where the Bills, there's these changes, and it's offensive coordinator last year, obviously new wide receiver coach coming in this year. There's always these adjustments, but in time, the Bills are going to have those opportunities down the road.
Yeah, and I just think with Dorsey in general, like, there's got to be a little bit of allowance for learning on the job, right? Like, take any job that you've ever had, right? Like, if you stepped into some type of leadership role at work and you're now managing people that you were working alongside of. Like there's an awkward nature to that. Like just two examples come to mind right away. Chad Hall and Rob Boris, guys that he was, peers with, right? Those were guys that were on his level on the coaching staff. Then you flip the switch to offensive coordinator, and the same guys that you were in meeting rooms as like equals, now they're your, people that report to you, like that you are overseeing, that you are their boss. You are running the offensive operation for the football team. So I think some of the things that worked, he's going to probably learn from that. Some of the things that he's got to change, they're probably going to change this offseason. And what's one of the things that people always talk about for rookie players in the NFL, that year 1 to year 2 jump, how much experience from the experience, how much they're able to take from that and then make changes to their game in year 2 to, have an advancement in production. I think that's all also possible for an offensive coordinator. Sure. And I look at Ken Dorsey in that way and say, he's going to have a better understanding of who he has on the roster. They're going to go out, you would think, and this is something I'm excited to talk to Brandon Beane about in 2 weeks. How involved is Ken Dorsey going to be in the process of evaluating players and going out and getting specific players tailor-made for the offense that he wants to run? I want to do this, and this offense, and I need you to get me this player, and this player, because they do it, because I'm the one in the film room breaking down the film on guys that can do the things that I want to do in this offense.
And that's huge. And that's going to be big in free agency here in about, a month's time, almost a month and 2 days. There's going to be players that the Bills might be able to get for pennies on the dollar, guys that you don't think of as main targets in free agency, but it might be someone that Ken Dorsey says, man, this guy in my system is exactly what we need. We can get him involved. We can have him play an important role, kind of like what Brian Daboll did for the career of Isaiah McKenzie. There can be those types of situations. I'm sure that, the Bills scouts, the Bills front office, in terms of the draft, they have their own guys. They've been doing all the footwork, the legwork, the due diligence. But again, Ken Dorsey, they might come to him and say, hey, these are guys that we're high on. What do you think? And I'm sure he'll look at some of the tape, be in the room for some of the interviews at the combine, things like that too. And he'll have a say on that as well. So give this coaching staff time. Same thing with Aaron Kromer as the offensive line coach. That was his first year back in Buffalo. There's going to be players that he has in mind, rookies and maybe even veterans that they're going to want to bring in, and expect a jump from year 1 to year 2.
If you want to expect a jump in your game day spreads, I know that it's the off season now, but you're still going to be hosting parties. You're going to be watching some basketball. March Madness is coming up. Get yourself stocked up with a visit to the Tops Carryout Cafe. Perfect for game day or any day. Hot to go fresh large cheese and pepperoni pizzas, $14. The jumbo chicken wing 10 count, $14. The Tops legendary breakfast pizza. Get yourself a large for $20. Pizza or taco logs, 6 count, $7.69. Baby back rib sections, $5.99 a pound, plus subs, sandwiches, wraps, apps, sides, and so much more. Visit topsmarkets.com/redzone for the complete menu of ready-to-enjoy fan favorites. Final thought, Ryan Talbot.
Yeah, more so a shout out, I guess. Saturday night, Matt, you and I had a podcast up in Buffalo at Wingnuts. My wife and I stayed overnight. I get a call fresh and early from my daughter around 7:38 in the morning, and she's like, hey, I'm having breakfast with one of your biggest fans. And I had no idea what she was talking about. She went to this church breakfast with my mom, and 91 years old on Thursday. Her name is Dolly, Matt, and she does not miss an episode of Shout, a Buffalo football podcast. So happy 91st birthday on Thursday, Dolly. Thank you for supporting the show.
Dolly. 91 years old. What a awesome piece of news. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it right here on Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast. And we have another one coming for you on Wednesday. So don't you worry about a thing. We'll be right back. That's going to be 3 shows in less than a week, Ryan. We're back in a big way here on Shout. Lee Smith was awesome. If you missed any of that interview, please go back and listen to it. Some great insight. A guy that was in the locker room for a long time. Some fun conversation around the Bills. As he was able to kind of look at it from a distance this year. And then, we'll have Mike Giannitti from SpotTrack.com with a salary cap special on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss that show. He's Ryan Talbot. I'm Matt Parrino. Dolly, have some cake for me. We'll see you all